All right, so this happened about I guess a little over a year ago. I was working in my local congregation, and there was a guy that came in with one of our members' daughter, and he's been coming for a couple of weeks. And I thought, that's pretty interesting. And he was tall, and he kind of stood out. And so I introduced myself, and we kind of were talking. It was real shallow talk, how are you doing? How's your week been? Kind of deal. And then I guess I learned somehow that he was not a member of the church. And I thought, well, man, this is a great opportunity. He's already in the doors, so it's surely this is going to be easy. And so I asked, hey, would you and your friend, she may have been a fiance at this point, I don't remember yet, but hey, would y'all be interested in studying the Bible together, real informal, let's just sit around, maybe eat or drink a little bit, and open up God's word and see where it takes us. And so they agreed, and I had known a little bit about this guy in the few weeks that he'd been coming. He had a pretty intensive criminal record, and he was he jokes now that he was living in a fancy gated community, but he spent majority of his growing up years behind bars. And so I thought, man, this is going to be interesting. He's got perspectives, he challenges, he analyzes everything, and is skeptical. This is going to really, really be interesting. And so we started at our first Bible study. He confessed his faults right out of the bat, and it was like drinking out of a fire hydrant. It was just so much information, and I'm reasonably young, and trying to keep it contained and act professional and not ask questions. And so it was very, very interesting. But like I said, he was a skeptical person, and we went through the studies for several weeks, and he was challenging just about everything, because he grew up Southern Baptist, and was really, really skeptical. So something really, really interesting happened, but I'm gonna get back to that here in a little bit. And but I wanted to wait so we can talk about that in a little bit.
Awesome. Yeah. So tell us who you are, where you're from, your name, and interesting fact.
Okay, great. So my name is Alex Blackwelder. I was born originally in Eastern Europe, Slovakia, actually. And my parents now were missionaries there, and met me and another girl, and adopted us. I like to say that they came home with 2 souvenirs, but it was great story. And given the fact that they were going there to do mission work, and God provides when we are doing His work, and so there's also a whole nother conversation. But anyway, so born in Eastern Europe, and I live and work with the East Main Church of Christ here in Tupelo, Mississippi. And, Tupelo is known for Elvis and his birth, and they milk it for what they can get. And if you're an Elvis fan, I guess good for you. The rest of us, we just try to, get about our day, day by day kind of stuff. We roll our eyes at you and stuff like that. So one interesting thing, I don't know if it's really, really interesting, but I love motocross. I grew up riding. I have motorcycles. I have a Ducati right now. So I love doing that. I've gone to the track. It's been a lot of fun. But on the flip side of that, I love candles. I picture candles as like soft and mildly feminine almost. So I have that side, and then I like to come home and smell my candles. It's really weird, but
that's awesome, man. You can put a candle out when you ride your bike by it, too.
Yeah, that's true.
So, the show's about helping people share their faith bravely. So do you have a couple strategies that you found to be successful or help people with sharing their faith?
Right, and I guess we're presuming that that they are already baptized believers.
That's right. Yeah.
And obviously, if they're not, that's another conversation for another time. But assuming that we are already baptized believers, before I get into strategies or so, I want to say this. We need to convince ourselves that the spiritual is far better than the physical. And until we realize that, we are not going to try to convince people that what they have is worse or better, depending on the person. And so we need to convince ourselves that the spiritual is far better than the physical. The spiritual offers community. So many people out there are looking for somewhere, a place to fit in. The church provides that. And then, obviously you can come up with many, many different things, but, we are also people of hope. Day by day, we take a look at what's happening in the world around us, but because of, what God has done for us, we can have hope. And then, especially when it comes to death is a very vulnerable thing for a lot of people. And, we're able to have that hope even in death. And then just like I said, day to day, the continual cleansing that we have that we read about in 1 John, there are so many good things. But in order for us to jumpstart ourselves in the right direction for evangelism or living missionally, we need to convince ourselves that the spiritual is far better than the physical. And that alone takes some time and maybe even some spiritual maturity that I know, for example, myself, I've struggled with that. And that's only recent for me. And if I don't believe it, and if I'm not convinced that the spiritual is better than the physical, I'm not going to be able to change people's minds.
Right. Well, what are some things you've done to help yourself so people listening can try also convincing themselves?
Well, I think the big thing is community. I'm an extrovert. I love people, and I love God, and so that's partly the reason why I'm in ministry. But it offers, especially around here and the things that are happening locally, community is a big thing. The church is located, or at least East Main is located around some people that there's just a greater need, and hopefully the church here is doing what needs to be done. No doubt we could be doing better, but even realizing that, okay, the things that we have, the motorcycle I have, the truck I have, the nice house I have, things like that, we take a look at those, or the world takes a look at those and says, okay, you are now successful. Okay, you went to school, you got your education, you live in a house, blah, blah, blah. You are now successful. But that's not what makes a person successful in the eyes of God. And so trying to rewire, how we look at things is important.
Awesome. Now, what's some strategies that you think are, once you've got your mindset in the, kingdom focused, I call it,
right,
focus on the kingdom, then what would be some strategies people could use to share their faith?
So I have this little quote here to begin. It says, if the gospel message stopped being shared by the 11 disciples, there would be no modern day church. Personal evangelism must happen to continue the life of the church.
You've been listening to Be Brave. The world right now is a crazy place, and sharing the love of God is the most important thing we can do right now. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit up gobebrave.org. Remember, the love of God is the most powerful force in the universe. Learn how to love like Jesus. See you next time.